Did people come in yet or not? Not yet, okay, we'll wait. Oh, well, you've all quieted down on your own, so I don't have to use this wonderful item, which I will. Calling to order the 108th annual meeting of the Hingham Historical Society. Welcome to those on the third floor of the Hingham Heritage Museum's Gillis Reading Room, and to those who are joining us on Zoom. Just wanted to mention this gavel, which was a gift from the Daughters of the American Revolution to the Hingham Historical Society in 1920 to be our society gavel, although I'm not sure we have used it in the last 100 or so years. And like what was the fashion back then at the beginning of 20th century of making things out of relics, historical relics, it says in the case that the handle wood is from the Benjamin Lincoln House. The wood on the head of the gavel is from the 1643 old mill in Hingham, and that the weight inside are from a musket ball from the Battle of Fredericksburg, a piece of a depth charge from Havana Harbor, and a piece of stone from Plymouth Rock. So, who knows, but I figured having found it in our database, we should use it at least once. So, and on this subject of history, which is what we're all about, we like to take this yearly gathering as an opportunity to reflect on where we've been over the past year, as well as charting our course for the next. Deirdre Anderson, our beloved executive director, and I will to some extent split this up in our reports, with me doing the history, recounting at a high level what we've been up to in the past year, and Deirdre the vision, providing us some insight into what's coming up. And all of it does come back to our mission, which I like to put up for us to look at least once a year, which is to collect, preserve, and interpret the rich and unique history of the town of Hingham, Massachusetts. Our efforts in 2022 were, as they have been each year, closely tailored to that mission, with a focus on the care of our large and growing collection and archives, our 3 historic campuses, and a commitment to continue providing education that is accessible to all constituencies and that is inclusive of all parts of Hingham's past. So, I would put our facilities, the 3 campuses that I just mentioned, at the top of my list of our accomplishments during 2022, although that may not have been apparent to the public by the end of the year. It will become very clear this coming year. A multi-year project funded by your support and a generous matching gift from the Cultural Facilities Fund of the Mass Cultural Council not only allowed long deferred maintenance of our old ordinary house museum on Lincoln Street, but also enabled the installation of new climate control, which will safeguard the treasures on display in the old ordinary, increased storage for our growing collection, and as important, allow for the old ordinary to be open for tours and other programming 12 months a year. While we were disappointed that we could not open the Benjamin Lincoln House to the public during 2022, the longer timeline that we are now working on has allowed us to tweak and amend some of the decisions that had initially been reached in a rush to purchase and permit the property by the end of December 2022. These revisions include making the imposing 1760s front entranceway into the house, the main point of public access to the building for handicapped and non-handicapped alike, and to change our landscaping and parking plans, which will help maintain the vista from the house to the house from Lincoln Square, which is certainly the most photographed and celebrated visual of the building. It has also given us the time to take advantage of the research and interpretive efforts of staff, including collections manager Jessica Costello and collections associate Caroline Strolick, outside consultants, including Liz Holbrook and Michelle Marchetti Coughlin, and many of you who volunteered to do primary research into the Lincoln family and its home. Finally, I need to mention what many of you probably saw if you entered the building tonight on the first floor from Main Street, is that there's a fundamental rethinking going on of our first floor space, and you'll hear more about that from Deirdre in her report. Our programming in 2022 became even richer and more varied, if such a thing is possible. We are proud of our cradle to retirement offerings and our ability to offer programming both in person and virtually. We have offerings for preschool, primary school, and high school students. We offer internships to high school and college students and those at the early professional stage of their careers. For grown-ups, we have developed what I think is a good ratio of fun community building programs. Think Tavern Night, Springham, Haunted Hingham, and more meaty and historically based offerings, such as, for instance, our annual lecture series. This year's series has been on native homelands and settler colonialism, for which I need to give a heartfelt thanks to our education committee for putting it together. As we grow, our profile is expanding, and we are getting the opportunity to collaborate with individuals and organizations on a wider historical stage, including Rev 250, which Deirdre will be telling you about, the Vernacular Architecture Forum, which has already given us precious insights into our buildings, the Gilder Lerman Foundation, with which we have developed a partnership, and many others. 2 of our paintings will be traveling to New York this spring to hang in a show at the American Folk Art Museum. The show called Unnamed Figures, Black Presence and Absence in Early American Vernacular Art. And for 2 years running, board member Jim Conroy has been able to source for us well-known Lincoln scholars to give the annual oration on Lincoln Day, raising the bar there quite a bit. I am continually impressed by the abilities and dedication of our volunteers who drive important parts of the programming activity, and am mentioning them here for one specific reason. We have gained such a professional look under Deirdre's guidance that it may not be apparent to the casual observer that we remain at heart a society whose membership drives it forward and which depends heavily on volunteer efforts. So I did not want to wind up this report without letting each of you know that no matter what your bliss is, there is a place for you at the Hingham Historical Society. Please do come in and volunteer. Before I turn this over to Jim Taylor for the finance report, I will just pause and ask if there are any questions. Okay. I'm turning it over to Jim Taylor, Vice President of the Hingham Historical Society, for about the next 10 minutes, and Chair of our Finance Committee for the 2022 Finance Report.
Hello, everyone. You're just sharing the screen with the folks at home, hopefully. As Paula mentioned, my name is Jim Taylor. Not only am I a board member, I'm also serving as the chair of the Finance Committee and have done so for the prior 2 years. Wanted to fill you in on our process, how we actually oversee the society's finances. The committee, the finance committee meets monthly. We review all the results of the society, and then we report back to the overall board on a quarterly basis. In addition, during 2022 and in 2023, we're transitioning the management of the society's endowment to Cerity Partners. The Cerity is based in Boston, and they'll be the fiduciary managers of our endowment moving forward. That includes not only our unrestricted endowment, but also the endowment that was established for the maintenance of the Benjamin Lincoln House. This past year, the finance committee also updated our spending policy associated with these endowments. And you'll hear a little bit more about that when I talk about the budget in more detail. We're making sure everything's compliant with Mass state rules and that we're acting in the best possible custodian of your endowment that you helped establish for us. Lastly, this year's audit process went smoothly. We hired a new auditor about 2 years ago. And whenever you bring in a new auditor, sometimes the initial audit takes a lot more work. This year went very smoothly, unconditional results. And so we're fully compliant with all of the related tax filings that we're obligated to file each year. Then lastly, we have a very detailed budget process, and you'll see the results of that today. Deirdre prepares a proposed budget in the end of the year. The finance committee reviews it first, makes some suggested changes, and then finally is presented to the full board for their approval. We had conditional approval in February and full board approval of the budget in March. So let me run through the results of 2022 briefly. Now remember what last year was like. We had an increasingly inflationary period of time. We hadn't seen inflation like that since the late 70s. And that impacted some of our expenses, and you'll see that shortly. Now, don't forget, as Paula mentioned, we are revenue dependent. We don't receive help from the town other than their wonderful help with the purchase of the Benjamin Lincoln House. But we are really dependent upon the generosity of the folks in this room and others to help support the organization. So I'm sharing with you here the revenue side, or what we call the resources that the society has available to them. And again, it's really raised through your generosity as well as so many events that we hold during the course of the year. Overall, the society is in good shape financially. We came very close to hitting our revenue numbers. We didn't really primarily because we had anticipated drawing down some of the Benjamin Lincoln House endowment for capital work that was going to be done in 2022. Well, because of the access to resources and materials, that's now been pushed into 2023. So we did not pull down the $190,000 that we had planned for the use of the Benjamin Lincoln House. We did a great job on the Hingham History Fund. You'll see we had planned and budgeted $300,000. Through the hard work of Deirdre and her team and everyone on the committee and on the board, we were able to raise over $360,000, so exceeded our budget significantly. Our one weak spot, though, was memberships. We have the same number of members, but we raised less money this year in 2022 than we had hoped and anticipated. So we're doing some full dive analysis on why that was, what happened, and we'll have a plan in 2023 to somehow overcome that. So before we move on to expenses, are there any questions on the resource or revenue side of the society? Great, thank you. Now, as I mentioned, last year was we had a really inflationary period. We were up 10, 15% in some of our expenses. And in fact, in some of the expenses like renting a tent or other event activities, they were up 30 or 40 or 50% than what we had planned year over year. So that impacted some of the expense side of the budget. A couple other things that are to be for you to look at here is that we also had some significant grant expenses. So what ends up happening is when we receive a grant, for instance, Paula mentioned we put HVAC system into the old ordinary. We do the work first, we pay for it, and then we submit the grant expenses, and we have to wait for reimbursement. And there's some delay between when we expend the money and when we receive reimbursement. That's reflected in some of the numbers here. And then secondly, as I mentioned, membership was down a little bit. We didn't do the drawdown of the Benjamin Lincoln House, but we did still do some work there. We had a really strong 2021, which gave us some excess capital, which we were able to use and apply in 2022. So we didn't need to do the drawdown, but we still expended some money in terms of the maintenance and the overall running of all of our facilities. You'll note that in our budget, we budgeted conservatively, meaning we budgeted effectively for the same expenses that we spent in 2022, despite the fact that we probably won't have as significant inflationary pressure this year as we did last year, but we planned it just in case that were to be the case. You'll see our budget. The other two items, though, let me just go back to the revenue side for a moment here. The other two things we've decided to do in 2023 is we're doing a drawdown from the Benjamin Lincoln House endowment, but we've actually minimized that from the 190,000 to about a 5% drawdown in 2023. We also, for the first time in 5 years, are drawing down some money from our overall endowment. And that's effectively to cover the hiring of a new education manager, which we felt and the board felt was a much needed addition to the society. So keep that in mind. So in any case, this is effectively our overall budget. We feel very confident in the work that we've had into it. And certainly we will work very hard in terms of meeting our numbers. So do I have any questions on the expense side? Great. Then lastly, let me just give you a brief overview of the endowment. As I mentioned, we have two endowments. One's an unrestricted endowment, and the other is the endowment restricted solely for the purpose of the Benjamin Lincoln House. You'll note the balances. Last year, we had a relatively, difficult year, but not as difficult as many others experienced. Our unrestricted endowment was down a little over 10% in 2022. Compare that to a 16%, which most balanced portfolios experience. So we outperformed that. Then secondly, we had some good luck, and that good luck was we had chosen not to invest the Benjamin Lincoln House endowment until we really knew specifically our plan for spending that endowment. And because of that, and because it was a difficult year, we avoided much of the loss with the overall market experience. So overall, our overall endowment was down about a little less than 4%. I checked it today, and we're almost back to that point. So we're in very good shape, fortunately, on that part. Then lastly, we still have a loan on this place. We did a lot of work on it a number of years ago. We took out a loan. Our loan's 3 3/4%, which is pretty good today. We didn't love it a few years ago. Today we love it. And we're paying off the mortgage. We're making around $6,000 a month in mortgage payments. And you'll see that going down. It's our hope and dream to at some point just pay this off. And so if anyone would like to write a check, feel free to leave it at the door on your way out tonight. With that being said, I don't have any exciting old artifacts to share with you, but share the finance reports. Anyone have any questions on anything that I discussed tonight? Great, thank you so much. Appreciate it. Ooh.
Thank you, Jim. Good evening. I'm Deirdre Anderson, and it's my pleasure to serve as the Executive Director of the Hingham Historical Society. And I wouldn't be here tonight, and I would not have made it to my 5th anniversary with the Hingham Historical Society this spring if it wasn't for the support of all of you. Members and donors, our board of directors, and our small, mighty, and growing staff. Please join me in thanking staff with us tonight. Director of Marketing, Sarah Doggett. Operations Manager, Jen Cormier. Membership Manager, Jane Criscitiello. Archivist, Bob Malmy. And online with us, Collections Manager and Registrar, Jessica Costello, and Development Manager, Kristen Lash. In May, please stop by to welcome the newest member of our team, Education Manager Max Nosvich. who will be joining us after heading up education and outreach at the First Amendment Museum in Augusta, Maine. Later this month, we also hope to hire a visitor center manager. Your support has made possible the growth of our team to support the growth and vibrancy of our operations, and I thank you profoundly. Tonight, I am looking forward. I hope you will indulge me by visualizing with me the road ahead, what the road ahead looks like with the Hingham Historical Society. In the coming months, you may be downtown and see our fabulous new history tour cart, made possible by the generosity of a visionary board member. Our cart will shuttle visitors between the Hingham Heritage Museum, the Old Ordinary, and the Benjamin Lincoln House, our properties abutting Fountain Square. Or you may see the tour cart with a family on board, enjoying their ice cream and a tour of historic Hingham. On May 18th, you may notice architectural historians and preservationists from around North America arriving by coach bus to study our buildings and enjoy a bag lunch on the patio or inside the Hingham Heritage Museum, the only venue in downtown Hingham that can serve lunch to more than 60 people at the same time. Experts from around the country descend on Hingham in a long-planned site visit by the Vernacular Architecture Forum. They will return to their communities and universities, and we expect will marvel to their colleagues about our organization and our historic village. And we, in turn, will benefit from their expertise and have a model for future tour group visits. 2 days later, we continue to use our properties as a community gathering space and share who we are with the world, particularly newcomers to Hingham, as we celebrate our third Springham, a festival with live music, beer, and food. You will see Frank Corrado and Ben Wilcox's trucks at the Benjamin Lincoln House as we finalize our accessible path to our beautiful new house museum. In late May and early June, there will be back-to-back days with big yellow school buses rolling up to our big yellow building as we welcome field trip season. And Hingham fifth graders explore the Old Ordinary, and third graders enjoy their inaugural field trip to the Benjamin Lincoln House. We are grateful to our friends at the Old Ship Meeting House and in the Hingham Militia Company who are partnering with us and the Hingham Public Schools to make these experiences possible. You will see Old Glory flying at all 3 of our downtown properties this summer as we welcome residents and visitors to be tourists in Hingham and learn with us on the continuum of American history. Now come with me, tourists for the day in Hingham. You will enter our renovated visitor center at the Hingham Heritage Museum to begin your exploration of historic Hingham. You'll watch an orientation video in our new media center, learn the basics about Hingham history from our developing permanent History of Hingham exhibition. You'll use our first-class facilities, yes, the restrooms, and then you'll jump on the cart or walk to tour our Colonial House Museum at Old Ordinary, led by a dynamic and deeply dedicated team who will never have to put out the sorry, closed for heat, because our climate system will be on for relief from the heat and preservation of our beloved house museum. Our visitors can then cross Lincoln Street and be welcomed into the major General Benjamin Lincoln House, where they will be led by tour guides who will be trained based on original research and a tour script the Society commissioned with support from the Society of the Cincinnati. Our tour will share the incredible story of the Lincoln family in Hingham and expand the story of who lived in the house, including the Major General's wife, Mary, and those who served. Complete with flexible interpretive pieces and a fresh take on how the public experiences house museums, we will leave visitors inspired and wanting to return. That day, they may return to the Hingham Heritage Museum, where they'll make a donation, of course, and pick up some summer reading on multiple topics, perhaps even suburbia, as they prepare to join us for our 23-24 lecture series on that very topic. As summer turns to fall, you'll get emails and mailings from us. Join us with a lecture series subscription. Buy tickets to the 97th Historic House Tour on October 1st, or grab some friends, let's eat, drink, and dance at Old Ordinary's Tavern Night in October. Behind the scenes, our collections team will be continuing the process of accessioning, cataloging, and digitizing items to our collection, organizing our archives here at the Heritage Museum, and planning pop-up exhibits and gallery talks that deepen our understanding of what our collections tell us. Our membership team will be reaching out and literally traveling out to recruit new members and supporters by sharing the history of their neighborhoods, specifically where they live. Our development team will be working with our facilities team on grants that are focused on preservation and maintenance of our properties and collections, and encouraging donors to leave us in their estate plans. I'll be meeting with partners throughout the region for joint programming initiatives and donors for long-term commitment to the society. All of this activity creates a dynamic community centered around history, and the work of our team is to ensure that visitor and member experiences marked by strong historic content, well cared for collections and maintained properties become the thing to do and the place to be in Hingham and south of Boston. These offerings in our work will also prepare us as we prepare in the coming years as the region and the nation celebrates the 250th commemoration of the American Revolution, and shortly thereafter, the 250th birthday of this great nation. Sure, we live in the Bay State. We know all about the Tea Party, one if by land, two if by sea. Heck, guys support our NFL team in tricorn hats. But do we know it all? No, we don't. And we're called upon, organizations like ours, to deliver to the community and a region a commemoration that sparks learning and critical inquiry, shares stories of previously underrepresented voices, inspires commitment to the preservation of places and stories. What can we learn about the present day by knowing the seminal moment in American history? This is our time, Hingham Historical Society. We have the places and the stories, and represented by all of you here tonight, the committed citizens and hosts to share our stories with the world. I call on all of you to start following with me, not only the offerings of Rev 250, but to partner with us as members, donors, volunteers to plan our contributions to this generational commemoration. Tonight, we will honor two individuals who are seminal to this organization and personally instrumental in my life. One since birth, and you'll have to wait on that reveal, and the other is Paula Bagger, who Jim will receive the gavel from and speak about shortly. Before I close, I have to share with all of you how fortunate I am to have Paula Bagger in my life. My mom and I sat across from Paula Bagger in an event in probably 2011 during the launch of the campaign for the Hingham Heritage Museum. I remember that I liked her no-nonsense style and that she seemed really smart. Wow, I had no idea. There is a joke in the Anderson house where the teenagers, teasing their mother's multitasking, will hold up an earphone to their ear and say, "Call Paula Bagger." No joke. I went for this position in March of 2018 because I love Hingham history, and Dave Anderson told me it was my dream job. All true. And Paula Bagger has been on the other end of that line, physically, emotionally, and digitally, for 1,825 days. There are no words that will adequately capture the immense gratitude I have for Paula, for her leadership, her mentorship, her love of history, and this beautiful, busy organization, except to say that I stand in awe and with profound gratitude. Paula and I wrote all of you a letter in this year's report of giving, which is literally hot off the press today. You will receive a copy when you leave this evening. It will also be hitting your mailboxes this week. Please take a moment to read and reflect on this report and know the gratitude it represents. As we transition our board leadership at this meeting and look to the future, I thank Paula, I thank our board and staff and all of you. As I said last year and say most days, let's get to work.
I've been called no nonsense before, and it's not always an unalloyed compliment, but I will take it as such tonight. Before we get into the governance portion of the meeting, I just wanted to tell you all, when you mentioned pop-up exhibits, it reminded me that I heard today from Jessica Costello that there is a new pop-up exhibit down on the second floor where you will be for refreshments after the meeting, which she put together with volunteer Joan Broncali and the high school interns. It's called Lotions and Potions. I understand that Deirdre gets an assist for the name, and it has to do with medications and cosmetics in the 19th century. So I'm looking forward to seeing that. So we will now present our slate of officers and directors for election. And no, those aren't them. They are, in fact, John Davis Long, the first president of the Hingham Historical Society, which was the crowning achievement of his career after being governor of Massachusetts and Secretary of War under William McKinley. William Wallace Lunt, and those of you who are familiar with this room will know that there's a painting of him right behind the screen. You can look later, that we familiarly call El Jefe, because he's wearing lots of, I guess they're genealogical medals. And the woman at the bottom is Susan Barker Willard, one of the founders of the society, and the gavel lady. But first, just a few words about how the society governs itself. We're a Massachusetts nonprofit corporation whose dues-paying members elect the officers and directors who are responsible for governing the organization. The candidate slate for officers and directors is developed by a nominating committee comprised of current directors, former directors, and members of the society at large. A big thank you to our 2022-2023 nominating committee, Cynthia Gelko, Chair, and Kenzie Blackwell, Ken Foresti, Catherine Galloy, Mary Morrison, Aaron Whitmore, and Mike Whitner. The nominating committee presented a slate of officers and directors at our February board meeting, where it was unanimously voted to place their names into nomination. Our officers and directors attend monthly board meetings and each belong to at least one of the standing board committees which help advance the work of the society. The candidates for a 2-year term as an officer of the society are Jim Taylor for a first term as president. Jim served as the vice president of the society this past year and has served on the executive committee and the finance committee, and has been instrumental in advising our advancement and development committee. Caroline Councilman for a first term as vice president. Last year, Caroline chaired both our advancement and development and governance committees. She has also been active in our membership and outreach efforts. I first met Caroline when she launched her involvement in the society as chair of our very first tavern night in 2018, and that was a great party. Cheryl Bierworth for a 2-year term as clerk. Cheryl has served as the clerk for several 2-year terms. Last year, she also served on our executive, governance, and personnel committees. And Bob Mosier as treasurer. Bob has served as treasurer for several terms, and as part of this role, also serves on the executive and finance committees. The great slate of officers. As for directors, we have nominated 7 directors, 3 returning for a second 3-year term, and 4 brand new, joining for a first 3-year term. They include Jennifer Hunt. Jen has worked in the investment business over her career and is currently a managing partner at Edgeline Capital. She has robust advisory board experience with the National Council on Teacher Retirement and National Association of State Retirement Administrators, and has served on the board of the Goodnow Library Foundation in Sudbury. She is co-founder and owner of Lola Mayer LLC, a woman's clothing boutique in Chatham. She is a graduate of Boston College with a BS in finance and lives a few doors down from the Old Ordinary and the Benjamin Lincoln House with her husband, Tim, and 2 teenagers, Teddy and Bridget. I don't know if you heard, I set off the alarm at the OO about 5:30 tonight. I don't know if you heard it, but it won't be the last time, so. Matthew McDonald. Matt McDonald is a partner with Ernst & Young LLP, where he works closely with both public and private companies in the technology, retail, and consumer products industries. He is the treasurer of the nonprofit Play Ball Foundation, which funds middle school sports programs in high-need communities throughout Massachusetts, and locally, he serves on the board of Hingham Youth Hockey. A graduate of Fairfield University, Matt lives in Hingham with his wife, Marissa, and 3 children, Owen, Bryn, and Grady. And did I hear that you are from South Hingham, Matt? Yes, the few and the proud. So since one's leaving, I'm glad that a new one's coming in. Lauren Mahoney. Lauren is a vice president at Compass Realty, focusing on residential real estate sales in Hingham. Prior to entering the real estate business, Lauren was a senior account executive for Katz Media Group in New York, handling advertising sales for hundreds of radio stations around the country. Lauren was born and raised in Hingham, to which she returned with her husband, Rob, and their 2 young children, Teddy and Anna. Lauren currently serves as the president of the Parents Association at Sioux Escuela Language Academy, was previously president of the Hingham Newcomers Club, and held a leadership role in the New York Junior League for many years. Lauren is a graduate of Thayer Academy and Boston College. The nominating committee did a really good job. And we also have 3 directors who have opted to throw their hats back into the ring for a second 3-year term. Debbie Edmondson has been a stalwart supporter of our preservation efforts during her first term on the board, as well as a prior board stint early in the 2000s. Debbie is vocal in her commitment to our diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts. During her last term, Debbie served on the Facilities Committee, as well as the ad hoc Benjamin Lincoln House Transition Committee. Laura Thompson, during her first term on the board, served on our Education Committee, providing support to our annual adult lecture series, but also focusing on the ways in which we provide educational programming to Hingham's children. Matt Torrey has been a member of our Finance Committee since he joined the board, and last year joined the 5-member Executive Committee as well. We are so glad that all 3 of these directors opted to re-up. And I will entertain a motion to approve the slate of officers and directors of the Society in 2023. We have a second? Is there any discussion? So we will come to vote. All those in favor? Anyone opposed? Excellent. I will now turn this gavel over to Jim Taylor, our new society president.
Thank you. Thank you. Really, it's quite an honor to be here. And Paula, we'll have a chance to thank you in a minute. I worry that the Anderson household kids are now going to say, "Oh no, it's Jim Taylor calling." So be prepared for that. So I'm really humbled and really excited to be taking over as president, and so thrilled that Caroline Councilman will be serving as vice president. Caroline, just stand up for a second, please. Will really take the 2 of us to fill Paula's shoes. So we're really excited to be here today. We serve in a very long line of individuals who are committed to this town and this organization. I view us as stewards of the society, trying to leave it better than how we found it. but this is really a team effort. We have a fantastic, committed board of directors, a very talented team of full-time and part-time employees, wonderful and energetic volunteers, and generous members and contributors. All of us striving to continue to collect, promote, and preserve Hingham's historic heritage. Thank you all for what you do today and for continuing to support this wonderful organization. I thought that was an applause. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. To continue our thanks, thank you also to the new board members Paula just introduced momentarily, a little bit ago. Jen, Lauren, and Matt, thank you again for offering to serve and for giving us your time and talent. We're really looking forward to working with all of you going forward. So thank you and welcome. So lastly, I have the pleasure of thanking our two exiting board members. The first is Craig Bromley. Craig, would you mind joining me up here for a moment? Don't worry, it's not hazing yet. So Craig and his wife, Maria, and their boys moved to Hingham from Canada via Japan in 2013 for Craig to take over the running of John Hancock here in Boston. Upon his retirement from John Hancock, the Society was fortunate enough to recruit Craig to join our board in 2020. So unfortunately, Craig joined during the COVID time. So most of our interaction were over Zoom for most of the time as a board member, unfortunately. But I can personally attest that there are few more fun places to be than in the company of Craig and Maria. Thank you. Yes, it's quite the experience. Craig was an actor and great member of the Finance Committee. Yeah, that's not it. Craig was an active and great member of the Finance Committee, helping to renegotiate our insurance coverage, including the addition of the Benjamin Lincoln House. And you can imagine how difficult that was. He also helped insure the golf cart. So that was also a challenge. So don't worry, we're fully covered on insurance. Yeah, no, it's insured. It's very insured. He chaired the nominating committee. He and Maria also chaired Tavern Night one year, and also participated. He showed up at every event. He really did. Craig was always a stalwart, and we were so thrilled to see him and Maria at almost every event that we had here at the Hingham Historical Society. He also brought a really straightforward decisiveness to any decision. No nonsense? No nonsense. I like that, no nonsense, good description. And often he saw things that others didn't. He was really helpful to us to have a whole new approach and awareness to many of the topics we discussed. So with that, Craig, thank you for all you've done for us, and we wish you and your family well in your future adventures. I did just shave today too. I would have worn one when I had those mutton chops mustaches if I had known how popular they were back then. But last but certainly not least, Paula. And Deirdre did such a wonderful job of honoring her. So I'll try to do the same. For those that don't know, not only does Paula have her own law practice, but she's also an amateur historian, as you noted from her research from the gavel. She began volunteering with the Society in 2008 by cataloging and researching a collection of 18th century legal documents. This interest, though, led her down a really interesting path. The Prince Stima, an enslaved African American with an incredible talent for painting. The Hingham Historical Society is a beneficiary of two of his portraits, which currently hang in Old Ordinary, and I understand they're going to be out for, we're lending them for an exhibit going forward. Paul has written and spoken extensively of her findings about Prince Stima. Her articles have appeared in many magazines. She has spoken publicly at the Chilton Club. She's appeared on podcasts, and she's presented on many society events about Prince Stima. It's really a fascinating topic. During her time at the Society, she's also been the chair of the Collections Committee and has spent countless hours in our archives, cataloging and organizing and leading the Society efforts on BIPOC research, continuing to research the enslaved individuals in the Lincoln household, including a man named Juba. She's also very generously and graciously agreed to continue to serve on the Collections Committee. So fortunately, we'll still have her expertise moving forward. Paula joined the board of the Society in 2013, rising to the role of vice president of the Society in 2017, and then unexpectedly stepping forward to become president in 2018 during a period of transition. During her tenure as president, she has led the Society through a significant period of growth, including the expanding usage of the renovated Heritage Museum, the hiring of Deirdre as executive director, the hiring of 2 additional full-time employees, the expansion of the thought leadership and events of the Society, the formalization of the Society's committee structure, the partnership with many outside organizations, and culminating in the purchase of the Benjamin Lincoln House. She worked tirelessly behind the scenes to ensure that everything related to that purchase was done with precision and to the benefit of the Society, while honoring the role and generosity of the sellers of Woodard's and Franklin Beverage. She represented the Society with distinction in front of numerous town boards on many topics and in public at events such as Lincoln Day. Most importantly, though, she did it all with a measured and calm manner, using humor along the way to lighten spirits, but always giving all those around her the confidence that she has a matter well in hand. So Paula, thank you for your inspirational leadership, your commitment to the Society, and your unwavering support. You'll be missed very much. So I have, please sit down. I have two mementos here for Paula. The first is a gavel to represent the time. Now, if we wait 100 years, then it will be, and there's no depth charge in here. There's nothing fancy about it. But anyway, here's a gavel to represent your time. You can use it at your house. The second thing, here's just a plaque. Again, thanking you for your time. Society. So thank you for everything. Thank you for everything. So I'm going to pass the, well, not gavel, I'm going to pass the dais over to Deirdre for presentation of awards. So thank you again.
Thank you, Jim. We present 2 awards this evening, as the Hingham Historical Society has for over 30 years. The W. Bradford Sprout Jr. Award for Architectural Preservation and the Judith Lee Kimball Service Award for Outstanding Volunteerism. We are fortunate to be joined tonight by family members of W. Bradford Sprout Jr. and Judith Lee Kimball, who will share with us insights about these late community leaders for whom our awards are named. I will then join them at the podium to present the award to this year's recipients. And we ask the presenters and this year's award winners to please stay after the meeting is adjourned for press photos. Please join me in welcoming family members of the late W. Bradford Sprout Jr., Ross Broom, Sarah Potter, and Sally Lovett. I welcome Sally Lovett, W. Bradford Sprout Jr.'s daughter, to the podium.
Good evening. I've been asked to tell you a little bit about my father, William Bradford Sprout Jr. And he attended Harvard and graduated from the Graduate School of Architecture with a master's degree in architecture. He had many architectural connections to Hingham. He was staff architect at Derby Academy from 1945 to 1949, and he designed the first gym. He was the architect member of the Hingham Historic Districts Commission. He was a co-founder, director, secretary, and secretary-treasurer of the Massachusetts State Association of Architects, and he was a fellow of the American Institute of Architects. Two projects in Hingham, which I find particularly interesting, are pictured on the screen. The first is the Squire Norton House. And in 1933, he moved this house from its original location at 65 Main Street to 47 Fearing Road, where my grandparents, the Vroom family, lived for many years. I remember him telling me that he numbered all the boards at the time of moving so they would be placed in the right spot when the house was reassembled. That's the one with the snow. The second project involved his new brother-in-law, Dr. Ross Vroom Jr., a dentist. Dr. Vroom came home after serving in World War II and bought some land on World's End. There was a housing shortage, a lumber shortage at the time, so Dr. Vroom chose a two-story garrison colonial house on Gallops Island in Boston Harbor. This had been used by the Coast Guard during the war as a radio operator's training school. Dr. Vroom floated the house on a barge, lower one, through Hingham Harbor to 22 Seal Cove Road on World's End. And there, the dentist back from the war and the architect with newly acquired expertise in moving large objects put their brother-in-law heads together and designed and oversaw the construction of a cellar where my cousin Ross Vroom lives today. Both photos of both these events have made it into the archives of the Hingham Historical Society, as you can see. My father never really retired. He opened his own office in 1965 and continued to design and oversee the building of colonial houses in Hingham and Cape Cod. He loved classical colonial architecture and turning a client's dream into reality.
Thank you, Sally. For 2023, the Hingham Historical Society is proud to present the William Bradford Sprout Jr. Architectural Preservation Award to society supporters and homeowners and their preservation partner who have not only lovingly preserved, but meticulously rebuilt the 17th century Samuel Lincoln Cottage at 182 North Street after a devastating accident that made international headlines in the summer of 2021. Please join me and Sally in congratulating Nancy and Frank Mellon and Jonathan Detweiler of Buttonwood Renovations for their preservation of this drum roll, please, for their preservation of the Samuel Lincoln Cottage at 182 North Street. Thank you, Sally, and congratulations again to Frank and Nancy and Jonathan. Please join me in welcoming Albert Kimball. Oh, wait a minute. I want you to take in the photographs of 182 North Street, the Samuel Lincoln Cottage. What you see is the terrible accident in the summer of 2021, what the accident looked like from the inside of the home. And if you look on the far left, hope remains hand-cut lath and plaster that Jonathan Detweiler and team put back together to meticulously rebuild that home. Now, sorry, look at that fabulous photograph. Please join me in welcoming Albert Kimball, brother of Judith Lee Kimball, to the podium.
I want to thank Deirdre for inviting me to present this award tonight. Judy was a unique person. She was a true volunteer and thoroughly enjoyed service to whatever cause she was part of. She graduated from Hingham High School. She attended Boston University to become a physical education teacher. And while there, she volunteered at the Center for Children at the North End in Boston and taught phys ed there and developed a homework club there also. Following that, she then joined the Peace Corps. She was assigned to Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, of all places to go. And there she lived in a slum, a favela, and worked with public health people and to present and do things that would help them live a better life. She was a Girl Scout and participated in the Hingham Girl Scout troop. And this Girl Scout organization she presented was to help young girls in the slum be able to reach for maybe higher goals than their ancestors or their parents could have done. She also taught English at a binational institute and was there for many, many years. When she returned to home, which is Hingham always, she was very happy to be part of the Historical Society. She was a member of the Daughters of American Revolution. She was a member of the Mayflower Society, and she enjoyed being part of the historical areas of this country. And one of the things that she enjoyed, particularly with the society, was the 350th anniversary. This was something that she worked very hard on with the committee. They planned many activities, and she thoroughly enjoyed all of that. And one of the things that she was the proudest of was the connection with the people of England. You can see in the picture here of her with some students in Hingham, England. She traveled there many years, over the years, and she was able to get some of the family members and adults to come and help celebrate the 350th anniversary. And they came and enjoyed many of the activities that were planned for this special occasion. So I thank you for Judy, and sadly we lost her in 1991, the age of 50. And I'm sure if she were alive today, she'd be very proud to be here and still active for the Historical Society.
Thank you, Albert. For 2023, the Hingham Historical Society is proud to present the Judith Lee Kimball Service Award to a woman whose name is synonymous with celebrating Hingham. For 2 terms of service on our board of directors, including serving as vice president, for years on the Historic House Tour Committee, for spearheading the Brainstormers Programming Committee when the museum first reopened, for combining her love of music and Hingham history with the Society's popular Jingle Holiday Gala, for initiating and hosting numerous social gatherings to bring people into this building, the Hingham Heritage Museum, and for truly leading our decision to pursue, purchase, and endow the Benjamin Lincoln House with a "we must get this house." We proudly present the Judith Kimball Service Award to Jane Carr. Hold on, I gotta get you some fun pictures. There are the pictures of Jane. Here we have Jane at an evening at Old Ordinary, laughing it up at a barn ball, and the shovel, what do they call it? The first groundbreaking thank you for the Hingham Heritage Museum. Congratulations, Jane. Shovel breaking, I've spoken enough. All right, no nonsense, right? All right.
Thank you all so much for coming tonight. We're going to have some light refreshments downstairs in the second floor, so please join us for that. So it is now time to adjourn the 2023 annual meeting of the Hingham Historical Society. Do I hear a motion to adjourn? Second. All those in favor? Opposed? We are adjourned. So thank you all so much.